What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are continuing on with the 240 build while we wait for our Dynatune appointment. There was a few things that I wasn't overly happy with that I wanted to get sorted out before we went to dyno, just to make sure that everything is on point and we're not going to have any issues when we get there. One of the main concerns was the setup of the turbo and the intercooler piping and the vacuum source to the wastegate. It was hooked to vacuum, not a boost source, so we drilled and tapped a boost source off of the turbo, and we also rolled that turbo down so that it would give us some room to install an intake pipe so we can get the air filter away from the actual manifold itself, because before this was just straight onto the turbo. Not ideal. We want to get a tube on there, so I ordered one off of Amazon. It was only 40 bucks. What a steal. Like I said, we're going to build this build fairly budget where we can and use quality parts where we need to. And when it comes to aluminum piping, what's the difference between 6061 aluminum from one source versus the other? So we got some intake piping. We also just got our box of intercooler piping. So now that the turbo is rolled down, the janky steel one that was on there before is no more. It doesn't fit, obviously, because we rolled the turbo down, but now we got some new piping. We're gonna fab that up today, and we'll see how many pieces we got to make it into. So if it's too many clamps, we're just gonna end up taking it to a fab shop and then get TIG welded, because my TIG welding skills are not great. If it was MIG, I got it. Stick welding, I got it. TIG welding, aluminum, not my thing. But yeah, let's fab something up to get back to this. This is kind of some spare material I had kicking around and kind of just fabbed up. None of it fits, no proper couplings or anything like that, but I have it just kind of scabbed together to make it work. But we just got a delivery, so we got some aluminum piping to unbox, and we'll see what we can make work. It's just a random kit that I found looking on Amazon, looking on all over the place online, and it gets quite expensive. Believe it or not, I got this stuff at Walmart. It's a Max Speeding Rods brand or something like that. But again, what does it matter? It's 6061 aluminum. We're going with a 2.5 inch pipe rather than a 3 inch because the inlet on the intercooler itself was 2.5 inch, and the faster the velocity we can get the airflow from the turbo to the intercooler, the less lag we're gonna have. And then on the hot side the cold side, we have a 3 inch pipe, because now it's cold, it's going out, it's more dense, and it can flow into the engine on that side. But we're gonna rock 2.5. It's what's gonna fit through the engine bay down below, and it's gonna tie straight into the intercooler, which is already 2.5. We also picked up a 2.5 to 2 inch coupler so that it goes straight to the turbo. So we got that here. So that should be perfect. That should work there. And then yeah, Amazon $40 special for an intake pipe. So that should go on now that the turbo is rolled down. As you can see here, it's no longer going to be blocking the way of having an intake on there, so we can throw this on just like that. Once we have the intercooler piping properly fabbed up, I was just kind of playing with it with my scrap pieces, trying to see what it was going to be like. And yeah, let's get to it. Let's unbox this stuff and see what fits. So I just got a random kit of all sorts of different pieces. Looks like we got a 90 there. And not quite a 90 there. Couple of straight pieces that'll come in handy. Came with all of the couplers and everything you need, all your clamps. I think it was around 200 bucks. There we go. We got a 45, another not quite 90 piece, another 45, and another 90. Right on. So we got two 90s, two 45s, two 70 degrees, I believe they are, and then two straight pieces, plus our intake tube, our couplers, and then the 2.5 to 2.5 couplers, as well as all our clamps. So I'm gonna get to fabbing something up here, get rid of this old one. I still have the steel one bolted through on the bottom side here, so we're gonna get that off as well and probably use that side as a template. But this is the biggest one that we gotta fab, because before it just kind of came off on an angle. If you remember in the last video, with the outlet was up here, kind of just came off on an angle up like that, completely blocking from any other intake piping from coming over this way. So this is just what I scabbed up, but I'm gonna get that off of here and we'll see what we can build. Okay, so I cut my first piece. It was one of these 70-degree angle pieces. Just kind of cut the angle a bit so that it's aiming towards the hole. I had to remount the hole just a little bit. Now I'm thinking one of these 45s, if I cut them right around there, should be able to join those two together, which will leave it pretty much straight up and down here. I also got 90 looping around from the intercooler itself, which will just leave me basically a 90 to go, maybe even a 45 I might be able to get away with because I can rotate that pipe up and down. It's hard to see. Let me see if I can get some light on here. So this pipe I can rotate up and down here to kind of meet the angle of whatever I can get coming down through there, but I'll cut this back a ways and then run a 45, or if I have it down, I can run a 90 straight up, and then once this one is straight up and down, tying into the one off the turbo, then I'll basically trim this to whatever length for the fitting of the 90. So I think first things first, let's get this one mocked up on top here so that it's coming at the right angle. It's straight up and down, and then cut off to tie into this piece. And we'll get that held together, and then we'll see where we gotta trim the bottom of this off at for its height and a fitting to match underneath. All right, so we got the piece marked roughly where I want to cut it. Now, I used to be a pipe fitter, but we'll use this for reference because I don't have a wraparound anymore. But basically, I always use something straight. It's a nice clean straight line, and wrap it around the pipe till it reaches back to itself. Line it up. You just keep wrapping it around till everything is in line. Then you know you're going to get a straight cut, and then you kind of trace that with a Sharpie. So as long as those edges are lining up, and you're lining up with your line type thing, mark it with your Sharpie all the way around, then you have a clean line to cut with your zip disc. So let's get this cut. And there we go. Perfectly straight cut. Now you just take your burrs and a half-round bastard file like that one there. File out your burrs inside and outside. Should be good to go. Let's see if this thing fits. Alright, now I want to test something out. I got a couple of scrap pieces that I cut off, and I got this brazing rod and this torch going. I want to see if I can tack these together for fit up. So if I just get them tacked, and then I can take them to a TIG welder to get them properly welded. But let's see if this brazing rod works. I got this again off of Amazon after reading some reviews before on how to weld up a crack in your dirt bike pipe. So I got this here. It's not cheap, but it worked fairly well. I sealed my pipe up on my dirt bike like nothing. So we'll get this pipe nice and red hot here and see if she works. Not hot enough yet. We'll have to wait. Well, I brazed that pipe no problem. It definitely held together just fine. But after fitting the pipe that I cut, the two pieces fit really well together. I just test fitted to make sure that was still gonna work. But it looks all right with only the one coupler. So I might just leave it like that and not go and get it TIG welded. The other thing is down below, where I got these two pipes now that I have to join together. I just got to cut them to length and then put a 90 in there. I was thinking, okay, well, there's going to be a bunch of welds there. However, this kit that I bought for the 200 bucks came with this silicone 90, so I could literally just cut the two pipes off and use this instead of having a bunch of clamps, because I'm going to need to have a clamp there anyway. From the top side, I got to be able to feed it through, and then one from the intercooler up to the bottom. I'm going to have some sort of joint there because I won't be able to snake it all the way through in one go. So having one coupler somewhere is going to need to be required. So why don't I just use this 90, and I'll show you what I mean. So I could weld that one to get rid of that coupler. That one's obviously got to stay to the turbo, so I could really get rid of that one there. But then that fits fairly nicely, looks pretty good, runs down through, and this is still going to need to be trimmed. So it runs down through, and then this one off the intercooler 90s around, and then straight this way. So if I just cut these two and add this piece to it, all my problems will be solved. So I'm going to cut these to length, coupler it with that, see what she looks like. Well, I got them cut, and it should work pretty good. However, we're out of alignment just by a little bit. So what we're gonna have to do is cut this pipe just a little bit so that this radius doesn't stick out so far, and we can get it in line with the hose coming down, or the tube coming down. And then it should all be buttoned together, be good to go. Not bad for an hour's work. Just like that. She's a done deal. Pipe comes down into the elbow. Just gotta throw some clamps on. And it goes up and around and into the intercooler. Pretty straightforward. We'll get the clamps on. We'll throw this intake back on. Roll it down as much as we can. Clamp everything tight. And it's below the hood line. She's looking like $1 million now. Not bad for 200 bucks. Plus we still have a ton of spare piping. Plus we still have our straight pieces too. So yeah, we didn't really need a whole lot. I think we used 145, 190, and 170 degree bend. And that took care of it, plus the 90 degree elbow coupling. Not bad at all. So another good idea, and something you're gonna wanna do before you go ahead and fire this thing up after putting all these intercooler piping in and doing all these cuts, there's potentially some aluminum inside the pipes from all the cutting that you did. So the last thing you wanna do is send that all the way through the intercooler into your intake and into your top end. So I have it all clamped together now. Everything's buttoned up other than against the intercooler itself. So I just kept that boot off, pulled it off to the side, and I'm just gonna fire this thing up real quick. Hopefully it stays running with a massive boost leak, obviously, but should stay running enough to blow it out, get some airflow, get that turbo pushing some air through those tubes. So if there is any loose material and aluminum shavings hiding in those pipes, that we can get it blown out so we don't cause any internal damage. I did give the pipes a good wipe down before putting them all together, making sure that there was as minimal debris inside them as possible. But yeah, you just definitely want to give it a good blowout first, and then we can put that final clamp on and we should be good to go. So I'm going to start it up and clean it all out. And just like that, she was done. Hell of a lot better than it was. I'll show you the before picture right here. To go from this janky steel pipe and no real intake to this beautiful polished aluminum in a matter of an hour or two, and a ton of spare parts, do a whole other car. Hell of a deal. So I think we're pretty much ready for dyno tuning now. So yeah, we gotta wait and see how long till we can get into the dyno and get this thing running real good, because right now it runs terribly. Depending on how long that wait is, I'm just waiting on a call back from them to see how long to get the new ECU in, and when they can book me in to do the last little bits that I want them to finish up. So maybe until then, once I get that answer on how long it's gonna be, I might start digging into the interior. I got a few ideas I wanna do that. Let's get some seats going. We're gonna do something with the carpets, do something with the dash. So follow along, stay tuned. We also got this still sitting here. The C8 is gone. We're still kind of waiting on an answer with all of that for the new car that's coming in. So it sucks, gotta wait. It is what it is. Looks like it's starting to snow outside today. We were supposed to get the new car a couple weeks ago, and things just didn't go my way. And yeah, if you saw the last video, you know why. So go and watch that one if you haven't. If not, keep watching, follow the build. We got a lot more to come. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. We'll see you in the next one.